Although I think I made the wrong decision to go work at Microsoft, I do believe that in life, even when bad things happen, they often happen for a good reason. I toiled away at my career for 5 years, not enjoying what I did. But studying to be an engineer did give me one edge. And when I think back now, I wouldn't have changed that because that one edge helped me become who I am today. That one edge was the idea of computational thinking. It's a framework of thinking that you naturally fall into when you learn computer programming. It's a way of breaking down problems into processes, parts, if-then loops to solve these problems more efficiently. So when I later became a meditation instructor, when I later built up Mindvalley, I had that edge over other personal growth teachers. I could look at problems, tools, systems, and create far more efficient ways of training people. And create far more efficient ways of training people. See, when you're writing computer code, you don't have to write code that works on just one machine. You have to write code that works the same way flawlessly on multiple machines. So as I started training people, I had to develop ways of training, ways of looking at the world, ways of hacking the human mind that would work on all machines, all human beings. This is how consciousness engineering emerged. It's computational thinking merged with personal growth. Consciousness engineering states that what makes you who you are two things. The first are your models of reality. Your models of reality are your beliefs about the world. False beliefs are called rules. Good beliefs, however, are what we're aiming for. Good beliefs are what elevate you. But beliefs are just one thing. There's another aspect to consciousness engineering, and those are your systems for living. These are your habits, your practices that you put in place to function in the world. If you think of the human being like a computer, consciousness engineering as a framework is the operating system. It's what causes your computer to boot up. But an operating system itself is useless unless you have hardware. Your hardware is your monitor, your keyboard, your mouse. Your hardware is your beliefs. And like hardware, your beliefs are swappable. If you want to have a better computer, you can go out and buy a better monitor or buy a better mouse. You can swap in and swap out hardware. It's the same with your beliefs. The mistake that people make is that they think of their beliefs as being them. But when you learn consciousness engineering, you understand that your beliefs are not you. Your beliefs are simply things that you've swapped into your being, but you can swap them out. You can decide that you do not want to buy into the 9-to-5 lie. You can decide that you do not feel that you absolutely need to be in a relationship. You can swap out a disempowering belief or a rule and swap in something empowering. You can upgrade your hardware. But the second thing about computers is software. Software are the apps that you might download onto your iPhone or your computer. Your software helps you solve certain problems. So the second part about optimizing your life is optimizing your software, and these are your systems for living. How you eat, how you parent, how you read a book, how you finish a project at work, how you solve problems, how you have sex, how you raise kids are all ripe for optimization. Problem is, many people do not update their software. It's like you're still stuck in Windows 95 when the world is moving to the next version of Windows, Windows 10 or iOS. You're still stuck in Windows 95. The reason we upgrade our software so slowly is because our education system upgrades itself so slowly. But every year, new thinkers, revolutionaries, geniuses are coming up with whole new ways of hacking and transforming every aspect of the human experience. It just doesn't make it out to mass culture via education. This is part of the problem we are trying to solve with our consciousness engineering project. We're getting a lot of these new ideas on food, on nutrition, on exercise, on parenting, on love, on intuition, on meditation, on work, on career, on thinking, and collecting them and distributing them to people around the world so we can all upgrade our software. So, to recap, your models of reality are your hardware. Your systems of living, that's your software. When you learn to hack and refine both of these, you are now a consciousness engineer. So now that you understand the impact of models of reality and the power of systems of living, let's put these together and give you the framework so you can start applying this in your life. We'll look at our models of reality. One of my favorite books of all time is Psycho-Cybernetics. I read that when I was 15 years old. It's by Maxwell Maltz, and Maltz was a plastic surgeon who noticed something really interesting. He noticed that he would perform plastic surgery on people, and they would go out into the world and they would still feel inadequate. They would still feel low self-esteem. And he realized that often someone could go through plastic surgery, become stunningly beautiful, but they would still feel ugly inside. The reason is because their self-image, their beliefs of themselves was so solid that even getting a new face or a new nose could not change that fundamental belief. Maltz said in his book, it's no exaggeration to say that every human being is hypnotized to some extent, either by ideas he has uncritically accepted from others or ideas he has repeated to himself or convinced himself to be true. All of us are hypnotized to some extent. Here's how that hypnosis happens. This is how you create your models of reality. There are 5 ways this happens. The first is childhood indoctrination. So one of the interesting things about human beings, right, is that all human beings are born premature. As we evolved, our brains started getting bigger. Now, as the heads of human beings started getting bigger, a simultaneous thing was happening. We were starting to evolve to stand up erect. Now, most animals, when they deliver a baby, there is no pain. Human mothers go through intense pain delivering a baby because firstly, the head of the baby is larger because our brains are bigger, and human mothers are standing erect while most animals are on their fours. As a result of this, humans evolved to a state where all human babies, according to Yuval Hariri in his book Sapiens, are born premature. And Hariri says, since humans are born underdeveloped, they can be educated and socialized to a far greater extent than any other animal. Most mammals emerge from the womb like glazed earthenware, emerging from a kiln. Any attempt at remolding will only scratch or break them. Humans emerge from the womb like molten glass from a furnace. They can be spun, stretched, shaped with a surprising degree of freedom. This is why today you can educate our children to be Christian or Buddhist, capitalist or socialist, warlike or peace-loving. Human babies are like malleable glass. And because of this, a lot of the beliefs, the ideas, the thoughts you have in your head, your other world, other than the physical world, were shaped and molded by the circumstances of your childhood. This is the first source of many of our beliefs around the world. Many people I've spoken to, many philosophers, scientists, personal growth leaders, suggest that almost all the cause of our problems and our pain come from conditioning, indoctrination, bad beliefs that we accidentally took on from mothers, fathers, education, culture, or religion before the age of 9, when we were more malleable. And this is why it's so important that as parents, we ensure that our kids are adopting healthy beliefs. The second thing that causes us to take on rules is the need for belonging. See, as we evolved as human beings, we found that we could survive better if we were part of tribes. And today, even in this age, we have this need to be part of companies, to be a Democrat or Republican or Christian or a Buddhist. These are our modern day versions of our tribes. They give us meaning, they make us feel safe, they make us feel secure. But our longing to be part of these tribes is so great that we will often blindly accept the rules of the tribe. This is how cults work. Cults can have the most insane ideas, but people blindly follow them because the need to belong is greater than the need to question the rule. So, whether you like it or not, as soon as you decide that you're going to vote Republican or vote Democrat, you take on both the rational ideas of the parties, but also the irrational ones. As soon as you decide that you're going to be baptized into a certain religion or move to a certain country, the same thing happens. There's nothing wrong with the beautiful beliefs of religion or culture or society, but you have to be aware that you might unconsciously accept the negative ones. The third thing is authority figures. Another thing that we evolve to have is a respect for authority. Now, this is true for all cultures. Certain cultures pay higher respect to authority, certain cultures pay less, but in almost every culture, authority works. Now, if you look at cultures in Asia, authority may come from politicians, from leaders. You look at cultures, if you look at cultures like India or the Middle East, authorities may come from sages or gurus or priests. If you look at cultures like America, authorities may come from the religious right or even celebrity. But either way, we are looking up to an authority. This is why in the world today, so many insane things can happen politically. People can mobilize millions of men to march to war, all because of authority. You want to respect authority, but you do not want to respect authority to such an extent that you fail to question it, because all these authority figures have the same rules in their being as the rest of us. But when you accept them as being the only one that is right, you unconsciously take on their rules. Fourth, imitation. This is essentially how advertising works. It's the idea that human beings often, rather than make a rational choice, because that takes time, to save time, we simply imitate. We imitate because it simplifies a decision-making process and it makes life easy for us. Sometimes this is good. If you were a child growing up in a hunter-gatherer society, imitating what foods people were eating would give you a clue on what is safe and unsafe. But in the modern world, this sometimes leads us to believe things that make no sense, but to unquestioningly believe this because everyone else seems to be believing it. Imitation can lead to some really serious rules, but it's essentially how the entire advertising world works. It's how companies make you decide that their brands are the best. It's what makes us all go watch a movie on a particular weekend, even though it sucks because everyone else is watching it. And finally, and this is perhaps one of the biggest sources of rules, internal insecurities. All of us have had bad things happen to us in our childhood. We have beliefs that we took on, rules and so on. Now what happens is these beliefs stay with us and they activate what is known as the meaning-making machine in our brain. And so as we go through life as adults, we see certain things happen and our meaning-making machine activates. And when you have insecurities, your meaning-making machine makes you create whole new visions of what is going on. So let me give you an example. You're a woman and you just met a guy whom you're really into. Now, you text him and he fails to reply your text in time. Internally, you've been worrying about the fact that maybe you were putting on a little bit extra weight, or maybe you were questioning your attractiveness, or you were wondering if you were worthy of this guy. Now, it could be the other way around. The guy, you could be the guy, this could be a girl. And so you don't get that text back. Maybe his phone was switched off. Maybe he was traveling. Maybe he was in an important business meeting and just wasn't on his phone that day. But all of a sudden, the meaning-making machine kicks in and we create rules about the situation. We create models of reality such as, oh God, he's probably trying to avoid me. Maybe he was just into me because he'd had too many beers. Maybe he really is with someone else and he was just, messing around with me that night. Now, we do this all the time. We do this in our employment. We do this with our bosses. We do this with our career. We do this when we're trying to close a business deal. Our internal insecurities activate these meaning-making machines that then cause us to create models of reality in our heads that often simply isn't true. It's the cause of so much stress and anxiety and worry. So you can now see where these models come from. Here's the bad news, people. There seems to be an interesting link between the world in our heads and the actual physical world. Many of our models of reality actually influence our external reality. Scientists, doctors are beginning to observe this now, and the results are actually really eerie, really stunning. For example, under hypnosis, a good hypnotherapist can tell someone that they are under a sun on a beach, the sun's pouring down on them, and they are getting a tan, and their skin can actually tan. It is amazing how our beliefs can influence our body. This is why something like meditation, which is going on just in our head, can create so many scientifically validated benefits. It gets weirder. There was a famous article in the New York Times about a doctor called Dr. J.B. Moseley, who wanted to question a common rule in medical establishments that a particular form of surgery was needed for veterans who had had arthritis of the knee. He wanted to see if the surgery actually caused positive results or if these veterans were simply being healed through the placebo effect. So he rounded up 10 veterans who were going to have this surgery. All of them had arthritis of the knee. Now what he did was, on all of these 10 veterans, 2 of them actually had the surgery. The other 8, he put them under anesthesia, and he simply used a scalpel and made cuts on their knee, then bandaged it up. No surgery had taken place. A month later, all of these veterans had healed themselves of arthritis on the knee. J.B. Moseley's study rocked the medical establishment because it showed that the placebo effect didn't just apply to sugar pills to help you get rid of a headache, it applied to things we were performing surgery on people for. You see, our beliefs influence our reality in crazy ways. In the book, The Happiness Advantage, Shawn Achor, the author, who is an amazing researcher and a TED Talk speaker, said, "We are all reality architects." Shawn said that based on his research, he's finding that our reality is being architectured based on what is going on in our heads, our happiness levels, our sadness, our depression. We are all reality architects. I love that word. In another really mind-blowing study, a group of research decided to study hotel maids. So they noticed that hotel maids in America tend to be unfit, but they are doing such heavy exercise type jobs. They are hauling vacuum cleaners up and down stairs, flipping over mattresses. They are walking around constantly, yet they tend to be unfit. So they created a fake study where a group of hotel maids were quizzed on their day-to-day work. Now, the hotel maids thought that the study was on their productivity. Not true. What the study was actually designed to do was to set up a particular frame where at the end of the study, the researchers would go to the hotel maids and make a comment such as this: "My God, Matilda, looking at what you're telling me, you must be really fit because based on the work you're saying you do, you must be burning an extra 1,000 calories a day." That was all. Now that simple word implant in the hotel maids, "you must be really fit," physically changed their states. When the researchers came back 30 days later, not only had the maids lost weight, but their cholesterol count had gone down, all because of an idea implanted in their head. That is how powerful our models of reality are. So let me tell you about a really bad model of reality I had growing up. That's me. I'm the kid wearing the blue t-shirt. That's with my mom and with various cousins of mine. I was an only child, but I had really wonderful cousins. And we are there in Malaysia, which is the country I grew up in. Now in Malaysia, because of my ethnicity, I look different from many other people. So I went to a Malaysian school where I was maybe 1 or 2 people of my ethnicity. So most people around me were of a completely different race and religion. As a result, I went through a lot of bullying in school. I was the guy with the big hooked nose, so people would call me hook nose. I had hair on my arms. Most people in Asia were not as hairy, so I was called gorilla boy. So I was the hook nose gorilla boy. And as a result, growing up, I believed I was ugly. I grew up believing I was different, that I was hideous. Throughout my entire high school life, I never had a girlfriend. I was too afraid to even approach girls. This continued for most of my life. Across high school, I was the kid who was smart, but was called the nerd. I believed I was ugly to such an extent that it started affecting my physical world. In my entire high school life, I only went out with friends 5 times. 5 times because I just felt I was uncool. I was different. I had crushes on girls, but I never had the guts to even have a conversation with a girl. Women made me freeze up because I believed I was unworthy. But the interesting thing that happened is that because I believed I was ugly, I started giving myself a bad skin condition. My skin started breaking down in acne. So by the time I was 16, I had chronic acne. I had to go to dermatologists to get medication to put on my face because I was breaking out in such horrible bouts of acne that caused another name, pimple face. I went through all of that as a high schooler. My beliefs affected my confidence, affected my reality. It affected my ability to connect with women, all because of what I'd chosen to take on as a child. Now today, I don't feel ugly. In fact, I'm standing here in front of a camera not feeling that you're judging me because of my horrible skin. But something happened to me to cause that shift. Now, my feeling of not being attractive stayed with me throughout college. So even in college, I barely went out on dates, even though now I was in the United States and I was in a completely different culture. But something shifted for me. And let me tell you what happened. I was in my junior year of college. And I happened to be at a student party, and people were drinking, people were dancing, and all of a sudden I see this girl, Mary. And Mary ended up dancing with me. You know, I was the geeky guy with the glasses. She was stunningly beautiful. And I was a little bit drunk, and I reached in and I kissed her. And immediately, because I felt I was hideous and she was too beautiful for me, I pulled back and I apologized. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I don't normally drink. And Mary looked at me, smiled, grabbed me by my ears, pulled me in, just started kissing me, and said, are you kidding me? You're fucking hot. That moment changed my life. The next day, I remember waking up and I was like, I'd woken up in a whole new world. Mary thought I was hot. Oh my God, I actually must be hot. And that completely changed my ability to communicate with women. It allowed me to get on camera and not be afraid. It allowed me to get on stage and not feel awkward. It filled me with confidence because one girl, a college girl that I had so much respect for, told me she thought I was hot and then validated it with a kiss. So you see, beliefs can be disrupted with the right conditioning, with the right force. But when we disrupt that belief, you can see such huge gains in your life. Today, I've changed the way I raise my kids because of my understanding of consciousness engineering and rules. That's my son, Hayden. And that's on a beach, and he's looking at turtles scrambling on the sand in Mexico. So I was talking to one of my favorite parenting authorities. Her name is Shelley Lefko. And we were chatting and I asked Shelley, what's the biggest advice you would give parents? And she said this. She said, in anything you do with your children, make sure that they walk away with the right belief. So we might be in a parenting situation and our kid is at the dinner table eating food and he drops a fork on the ground. And you turn to him and said, Billy, don't do that. And then he gets upset and now he tosses the spoon on the ground. And you go, Billy, I told you not to do that. So what I'm going to do now is send you to a corner for 10 minutes. So the mother sends Billy to the corner. Now we might think that's a good mother, right? A bad mother might whack Billy or something. But no, the good mother sends Billy to the corner because Billy shouldn't be dropping spoons on the ground. But here's what has happened. We think we are doing it right. We think we are disciplining the child, but we have not paid attention to the beliefs that Billy might be developing in his head. Maybe Billy dropped that first spoon because he was trying to get his mom's attention. Maybe it was an accident. Maybe he dropped the first spoon by accident, and when his mom spoke to him harshly about it, he decided that it was an accident. Why doesn't mom believe me? So he forms a belief. Mom doesn't trust me. He drops the second spoon to validate that belief. And sure enough, mom gets angry and puts him in a corner. He forms a new belief. Mom doesn't listen to me and doesn't trust me. Billy's now in a corner, waiting for his 10 minutes to pass. He forms a new belief. Mom won't talk to me and would rather do her own work, and so I have to sit in a corner and be quiet. And that leads to another belief. I am not important enough. That leads to another belief. I am not worthy. That leads to another belief. I don't have a right to speak my mind. All these cascading beliefs develop. So what's the right way to do it? Well, it is a tricky situation, right? And as a parent, I battle with this all the time, wondering if I'm doing it right. Well, Shelley's advice is, in any situation like that, at the end of it, ask your child, Billy, what do you think happened? What do you believe about this? What do you think I did? What do you think you did? So I've started adapting that in my parenting, and I do something else. Every time I put Hayden to bed, I ask him 2 questions to help him sort out his belief system and develop healthy beliefs. The first question is, Hayden, what are you grateful for? And I show him that he could be grateful for anything. It could be the sheets he's lying on. It could be the fact that he has a house with a roof. It could be a book that he read or a conversation we had. But then I ask him a second question. And that second question is, Hayden, so what did you love about yourself today? That second question is key. And then I have Hayden talk about something he did. Maybe it was an act of kindness. Maybe it was a demonstration of intelligence. Maybe it was something smart he said, or the way he took care of his baby sister, but something he can acknowledge as being good. That is my self-esteem lever for making sure Hayden, my son, doesn't have as many negative beliefs about himself, as many self-esteem questioning and damaging beliefs as other kids can do. If you can do this for your children, you end up raising children who are far more resistant to rules, because inside they are a lot more secure. So I disagree. I love Ken Wilber. I disagree with Ken Wilber on one thing. Ken Wilber was saying that today's generation is one of the most narcissistic generations the world has ever had. I don't see narcissism as a bad thing. If anything, I see being damaged inside, questioning yourself, having poor self-esteem as far too damaging. That if narcissism helps improve that a little bit, as long as you love yourself but you also see your connection to a larger society, then so be it. So we often do not allow kids to truly love themselves or appreciate themselves. We tell them, we use words such as, don't think you're so smart, or don't try to be so clever, but that's not right. If anything, our children are hurt. We are hurt. And as one of my close friends says, hurt people hurt people. The greatest thing we can do to remove so much pain from the world is to simply raise children who aren't growing up hurt inside. Think about what that could have done for you. Think about what that could have done for me. So try this out on your kids. Reality, you see, is not absolute. You make it up all the time, whether you think you're ugly, or whether you think you're attractive, or whether you think you're dumb, or whether you think you're smart. You make reality up all the time. So what are some of the aging hardware that we have? A lot of aspects of our world are nothing more than models of realities that we can question. Calories. Take ideas like calories, for example. We use calories to gauge our fitness levels, how much we're eating. But many modern scientists, nutritionists say that calories are a completely obsolete model. Retirement. In a world when people are living and getting healthier as they get older, and in a world where we're beginning to understand that work is about passion and not just 9 to 5, does retirement make sense, or is it an aging model of reality? Religion. More and more people are opting to call themselves spiritual but not religious because they cannot connect with many of the dogmatic traditions of religion. Is religion an aging rule that needs to be updated? Aging itself is an aging model of reality. There are better ways we can live longer and look healthier and feel better as we get older. University education. When you start acting like a consciousness engineer, you don't just question your beliefs, you start to see institutions, models, things about how the world works, and you start to see them for what they sometimes are. Industrial age, aging hardware that we can supplant and improve. So what are enhanced models? Human intuition, mind-body healing, self-directed learning, work as passion, being spiritual but not religious. All of these are new models emerging into the human experience that you might want to explore. Just like we use the word rule to help us see the patterns we are stepping away from, we use these words to help us see new patterns that we can walk into and embrace because they are healthier models than some of our aging, obsolete hardware. So you've learned about models of reality and how these models come into you and how they then shape your world. And what you'll notice is just by being able to see this sequence, the indoctrination process, how the models get in your head, how you accept them as being true for you, and how they can have such a profound impact in your world, this immediately gives you the power to start working on them and creating and developing better models. But now let's look at your systems for living. Your systems are your habits, your processes that you put in place to simply function in the world. So systems are like our software. Systems help us perform tasks. And example systems in the world would be how we email, would be phonetic reading, counting calories, endurance training, working 9 to 5, dieting and exercise routines. But there are also enhanced systems, gratitude practices, mindfulness practices, speed learning, self-managed workspaces. The thing about human beings is that we make better breakthroughs in our physical evolution than we do in our spiritual evolution. So for example, if you're watching this webinar with someone, I want you to just lean into them and sniff them for a moment. Just go ahead, take a big sniff of the person next to you. Or if you're listening to this on your phone in a subway or a car, do the same thing. What do you smell? Now, you might smell some sweat, but mostly what you're going to smell might be cologne or perfume or the shampoo that they wash their hair with. But here's the thing. if you did the same exercise just 100 years ago, everyone would absolutely stink. Because 100 years ago, even in the industrialized world, we may have showered maybe only once every few days. Perfumes, colognes were not as common as they are right now. Things such as body spray did not exist. As we've evolved, we've learned to put all of these things into our life. The way we dress, the way we shower, regular or twice-a-day showers, perfumes, cologne, we have really taken care of how we function physically. But at the same time, while we will clean our bodies, millions of people get out of bed every single day with minds which are not fully tuned. They might be feeling anxiety or worry or stress or fears, but at the same time, we don't take care of our minds in the same way. So while we may shower in the morning, we may get out of bed with minds which are completely unwashed, minds filled with anxiety or worry or fear or stress or negative thoughts, and we choose to do nothing about it. These are one of the biggest elements of new systems for living that we need to adopt. These are systems such as morning rituals of journaling or meditation. Systems such as creative visualization to help us allay our fears and worries and dream bigger. Systems such as intention setting, which is something I do every single day. I intend my entire day. Systems such as gratitude, which study after study has shown can dramatically boost levels of happiness. So, while there are a whole multitude of systems out there that you can apply in your life to work better, or parent better, or read faster, or create more amazing things, one of the first groups of systems that if you're not looking at, you should be, are systems for your mental washing in the morning. Meditation is an amazing method. Intention setting, gratitude, goal setting, a lot of this Mindvalley provides for free. All you have to do is Google me on YouTube and you'll find hundreds of videos and talks I've given on these morning systems. So we won't go too deep in them there. Just know that in every aspect of your life, innovative new systems are emerging all the time. And if you spend some time studying these systems and optimizing these aspects of your life, you get to grow faster. So now you've learned about models, you've learned about systems. We're now going to bring it all together. And we're going to end with this powerful exercise. Consciousness engineering is a powerful tool to think about every aspect of your life, every aspect of personal growth. Bring both together so you're growing in different aspects of being you. The problem is most people don't see how broad you can be, and they don't have a vision for how they can grow. This is what we're going to do here. First, we're going to show you 12 different aspects of your being that you should start thinking about. And we're going to give you an exercise that you can do. You're going to do it now, but you can also do this anytime you want to give yourself a motivational kick so that you can see how you can grow. I believe that the normal Western way of goal setting is kind of messed up because we tend to confuse a means goal with an end goal. So a lot of us chase means goals. A means goals might be a goal such as I want to marry the man or woman of my dreams, or I want to do well in my LSAT so I can join that law firm, or I want to get a job at that particular company. The problem with means goals is that means goals do not really bring happiness. Means goals are what society has trained us to be a means to an end. So what really does bring happiness? Well, happiness comes from those aspects of life that really remind you of how wonderful it is to be human. It could be making love to someone you really care about, visiting a new country, finishing a book or a painting, spending time with your kids, driving a beautiful new car just because you absolutely love the experience of driving, working in a job where you feel time is flying because you so love what you do. These are end goals. End goals are things that really grant human happiness. But in the industrial world, we forget to focus on the end goals and instead we set means goals. Means goals slow down our attainment of the end goal. See, when I became that programmer at Microsoft, I set that as a means goal. What did I really want? I wanted a great job. And to me, a great job meant travel adventure, meeting great people, creating things. I thought being a programmer was the means to that end. It wasn't. And I was so miserable, I got myself fired. When I started my festival, Awesomeness Fest, I was actually going straight for the end goal. I wanted something where I could travel. I wanted something where I could meet great people. I wanted something where I could create. I got all of that by creating Awesomeness Fest. See, I created Awesomeness Fest because I had my mind pointed at the end, and I decided to scrap the means, scrap those little steps that society says you have to do to get to the end, because that was one way of doing it hundreds of years ago. It may not necessarily apply now. So to be effective at transforming your life, you got to learn to look towards your end goal. And all end goals fall into 3 different buckets. The first bucket are experiences. And there are 4 different aspects of experiences I'm going to have you think about. Experiences would be things such as being with a particular someone, spending time with your kids, being and owning a particular type of house, traveling to a particular country. Experiences make it so joyful to be human. Now, many people see money as an end goal. It isn't. The reason we have money as a goal is because money is a means goal to buy experiences. Even if you're buying a Mercedes-Benz, you're buying that car because you want the experience of being able to be in a Mercedes-Benz, and that is great. You want to think that big. But ultimately, money buys experiences. Almost every wealthy person I know, and I have friends who are billionaires, the greatest joy they have in their life are the experiences that their money can buy. It may be being able to travel around the world in a private jet with their families. It may be owning a spectacular home. I have friends who own islands, but it's all because of the experience that they get from that. In your case, experiences are those things that fill you with bliss, joy, happiness as you're doing them. That is what we're going for in this exercise. Now, the second type of goal, end goal, is growth. So Tony Robbins gave this amazing TED Talk. And in the TED Talk, he said that there are 2 great spiritual needs we all have. Needs that fulfill our soul. And the needs are growth and contribution. Growth because, well, I personally believe all souls are here because we want to learn something, to grow in a certain way. And growth is one of those categories that you want to set goals in. How will you grow your skills, your intellectual life? How would you enhance your body? What new practices do you want to take on to fine-tune your mind and your thinking, like gratitude or meditation? All of these fall under growth. So you now have your list of experiences. You have your list of growth. You now ask yourself a third question: contribution. The Dalai Lama said, you want to be happy? Make other people happy. So contribution would be things such as raising great kids, spending time with your family, giving to a charity, volunteering, creating a work of art, contributing to your company if that job gives you meaning. All of these fall under contribution. So experiences, growth, contribution, these are the 3 major categories of end goal. Everything else falls into these. But remember, all of these are connected. You start with experiences, and then you're going to ask yourself, look, to have all these experiences, who is the man or woman I have to be? That gives you the answer for how you want to grow. And then, when you have the experiences, when you have your growth, you ask yourself the third question: if I was so lucky that I had all these experiences, that I've turned into this amazing man or woman, how could I give back to the world? That's where you come up with your list of contribution. So this is what you're going to do. You are going to take a piece of paper, and you will see this in your workbook. And in that paper, you're going to create 3 columns. The first is experiences. The second is growth. The third is contribution. All you're going to do is, as we go through this exercise, you're going to start writing down experiences, growth, and contribution on that paper. It's that easy. Now, as we do this, I'm going to help you by breaking each of these into 4 categories. So there are 4 distinct categories of experiences, 4 distinct categories of growth, 4 distinct categories of contribution that you are going to pay attention to. So in this exercise, in a rapid fire way, you're going to come up with your sets of goals for all of these. 4 different types of experience goals, 4 different types of growth goals, 4 different types of contribution goals. And then I'm going to show you how to apply other tools from consciousness engineering to really help you expand these aspects of your life, to eliminate negative rules that might be holding you back, and apply new models, new systems to help you soar. I do this exercise with every new hire who joins Mindvalley. And I do this with everyone who attends one of our events like Awesomeness Fest. It's always amazing to see what people come up with. Many people say this is one of the most powerful exercises they've ever done in their lifetime because it immediately helps you get rid of means goals and go straight to the end. Now, as you do this exercise, one of the important things that you have to understand and what makes this exercise so effective is that you have to distinguish between the means goal and the end goal. I want to share with you a real story that will help you see how different these two things are. So I was teaching this in a class in New York, and a lady came up to me and said, my goal for growth is to be a faster typist. And I said, well, why do you want to be a faster typist? She goes, well, because I'm a data entry clerk, and if I can type faster, I can process more of these documents, and that would be great. I'd grow in my career. And I go, well, why do you want to process more of these documents? She goes, because the more I process, the more I get paid, see? And I go, okay, that's good. Why do you want to get paid more? She goes, well, I want to get paid more so I can have more savings. And I go, well, why do you want more savings? And she goes, well, because I want to buy a house in Brooklyn. And I asked her, why do you want to buy this house in Brooklyn? She goes, well, because my mother lives in Detroit. I don't like the neighborhood she's in because it's unsafe. And I want to have my mother move to Brooklyn with me and live with me in this house. And I asked her again, why do you want your mother to be living with you in this house in Brooklyn? She goes, well, because we're the last 2 surviving members of our family. Our family goes all the way back to the Civil War. We've had this rich family history, heirlooms and antiques, and I want to move all of these from Detroit to this beautiful home in Brooklyn so we can preserve our family heritage so that someday when I have kids, they never forget where we came from. And I said, boom, that is your end goal. So it went from growth, be a faster typist, to experiences, have a beautiful home filled with our family heritage and history going all the way back to the Civil War. Have my mom live with me. So you see how that works? Now, to do this effectively, you want to ask yourself these questions when you set your goals. Answer the following question, okay? When you set a goal, ask yourself, when I achieve this goal, I will be able to what? And you want to keep asking yourself then, when I achieve this goal, I will be able to what? And if you find that the goal you set, when you achieve it, it's not because it's going to enable you to do something, but because achieving it itself makes you feel happy. You know you've identified your end goal. That's how you want to do this exercise. So you'll ask yourself, when I achieve this, I will then be able to. And that will help you go away from setting a mediocre goal, such as be a faster typist, to setting a really profound goal that inspires you. Something beautiful happens when you do this. When you get to the end goal, your brain will automatically start processing, whether you call this the reticular activating system or thoughts creating your reality. Your brain will help you find optimized paths to get to that end goal. It's as if your brain will start helping you leap over the rules itself to get there. See, one reason we have so many rules in our life is because we are setting these rules as our goals. So let's get started with the exercise. Now, there's one more thing I'm going to do, and that is to give you a limited amount of time to do this in. You're going to get 2 minutes for each category. 2 minutes to come up with your experience goals, 2 minutes for growth, 2 minutes for contribution. And in each of these subcategories, 30 seconds each. So 30 seconds, 30 seconds, 30 seconds, 30 seconds to complete your experience goals. Now, why do I do this? Well, firstly, most of us have a logical mind that will question us putting down goals. So we will put down something, and then our internal models of insecurity or whatever will kick in and go, oh, you can't put that down. No, that's too scary. Or no, not you. Other people maybe, but not you. you're going to shut down that logical mind by forcing yourself to just write down whatever emerges from your stream of consciousness. Trust me, I've done this with people in 2 minutes for each category, and they come up with goals which are insanely amazing. And then years later, those goals are still on there and they are achieving it. But if you later feel you want to go back to this and add more or swap things around, that's okay too. Just understand that right now I'm going to give you 2 minutes for a specific purpose to shut down your questioning logical brain. So let's get started. We will begin with experiences. So at this point, you have the sheet in your worksheet. You have the paper in your worksheet, and you will see under experiences, there are 4 different categories. We're going to start with the first category, love relationships. Write down 1 or 2 goals, end goals that you might have for your love life. It could be waking up every morning next to the most amazing man or woman I would ever want to be with. Write down 1 or 2. It could be being in a healthy, dynamic love relationship with myself. And now we go on to friendship. And don't worry, you can go back to love anytime and complete it. Friendship is about the people in your life. It's a goal for our social connections. A study at Harvard showed that one of the greatest contributors to human happiness is the strength of our connections. Think about how you want to contribute to your friends, how much time you want to spend with them, who your friends might be, what you would do with them. Write down just 1 or 2. We now move on to adventures. One of the biggest things that fill us with happiness are moments where we feel a sense of awe. This often comes from travel, from adventure, from anything from bungee jumping to visiting an exotic new country. Write down visions for places you want to have or things you want to do that will bring you a sense of adventure. And you just need 1 or 2. Now go on to your environment. Many people forget to set this as a goal. Think about your car, your office, your workspace, the restaurants you eat in. What are your environments going to look like? A sample end goal here might be, at least once a week, I get to dine in a 5-star restaurant with friends or family I love being around. Now, we go on to the next category, growth. And don't worry if you didn't write down everything you want to write down. You can go back to this exercise anytime. Ask yourself, to have that gorgeous life filled with all those experiences I want, who is the man or woman I need to be? And this is how you get your compass for your growth. The first category of growth is health and fitness. What type of body would you want to have? How do you want to feel every day? What do you want to look like? Would you enjoy completing a marathon just for the pure thrill of it? Do you want to take up a particular exercise routine? Not because it will get you something, but simply because you enjoy the routine in itself. These are all health and fitness goals. Next, your intellect. What books do you want to read? How do you want to nourish your mind? What type of conversations do you want to participate in? What types of movies, books do you want to find stimulating? A simple end goal here might be read one amazing book every single week. Then we go on to your spiritual life. While our spirituality can have many rules, it is also an extremely important aspect of being human. How would you want to embrace your spiritual life? How often do you want to meditate, pray, visit a temple or synagogue or mosque? Where do you want to grow spiritually? Do you want to be able to lucid dream or enter deep states of meditation or be so in control of your emotions that you never feel fear or anxiety or stress? All of these are notable, reasonable spiritual end goals. Then we go on to your skills. What new skills do you want to develop? Public speaking? Speed reading? Think about new skills that you wish you could have in your life, or skills that you have that you want to hone. It could be something as simple as being able to write a good blog post, to something more complex, such as impressionist painting. But think about skills that you would love to have, not because they would lead to something else, but because having this skill alone fills you with happiness and pride and joy. And now, go on to contribution. Imagine if you had all of these experiences, if you were this ideal man or woman, how would you share this with the rest of the world? Contribution is important because study after study after study has shown that when you contribute, when you give, it is one of the surest paths to fulfillment and happiness. The first way to contribute is your career. How would you contribute to your company or your career? Now note that this may only apply if you're in a career where you're happy and it gives you meaning. If not, your end goal might be to find a new career where you feel you're contributing. And then we go on to your creative life. You can contribute to the world through a book, through a song, through artwork. Anything that you're creating, whether it's software or new technology or new organization, can leave a really beautiful positive mark on humanity. But make sure that this is an end goal. In other words, you're creating it because the act of creating it itself fills you with happiness. It's about the journey, not the destination. Now we go on to your family life. How are you contributing to your family? Your mom, your dad, your children, your spouse. How much time do you want to spend with your kids? How do you want to raise them? How do you want to treat your spouse? How would you want to be with your mother? But remember that when you put these down, these should be goals that you're doing not out of a sense of obligation, but because the act of doing them alone fills you with happiness. Only then is it an end goal. And finally, your community. Now, based on your worldview, your community might be people from your city, or your nation, or your religion, or your ethnicity, or you could see yourself as part of the greater world community. No matter what it is, think about how would you contribute to your community. This could be through volunteerism, charity, sharing ideas, and you're done. You can now put down your pen or pencil. So what you have here already is a really beautiful framework of how your life could be. We take this exercise really seriously here at Mindvalley. We call these slips of paper the blueprint for our souls. And every employee here in Mindvalley has their blueprint, their 3 most important questions on a giant board. And we make it public. So anyone who works in our company can walk up to this board, see what other people are doing, and then figure out how they can help each other with their goals. If you are in a family and you're doing this with other family members, it might be a great idea to actually make this visible in public. Schools in some countries are using this same exercise. At Awesomeness Fest, we have 250 of the world's smartest, most game-changing individuals come together and do this exercise too. It's a really powerful exercise because goals work best when you make them public. And by being able to see what is meaningful to someone else, it is like getting a glimpse into who that person is. It gives you a way to be able to support, contribute, and give to other people. But we are not done yet. There is a second step to this exercise. For each of these goals, you now want to ask yourself 2 questions. Now, we won't have time to do this in the webinar, so this is something that you may want to spend some time with by yourself doing. The first question is, for this particular goal, what do I believe about the world? So let's say your goal was to run a marathon. Not because it gets you somewhere, but because you know that you're going to be filled with so much pride and you're going to have so much fun in the pure thrill of running that marathon. Well, you're now asking yourself, what do I believe about this? Do I believe that my body can do this? Do I believe that running a marathon is going to be painful? Do I believe that I have to train for 6 months to do it? By identifying your beliefs, you start to see if you might have restricting rules around running a marathon. There are guys who might have to train years to run a marathon. There are guys who have been able to train for 1 week through optimized systems and still pull it off. So by asking yourself this question, you are forcing yourself to look at your models of reality around this goal. And by examining your models of reality, you get to see if it's a rule. And then you get to strip away the rules so that you can get to this goal much, much, much faster. For example, if I had set my goal as an experience, I want to connect with really amazing people. I may have questioned my model of the fact that I had to have a degree in engineering, join a great company, somehow prove myself as a computer engineer before I could do that. So by looking at these goals and questioning the models, you help strip away rules. But there's one more question you're going to ask. And that other question is, what is my plan to get there? You see, you can't just have goals, you got to have a plan to get there. Asking this question forces you to look at optimized systems. So back to the marathon idea, right? What are optimized systems for nutrition that might help grow your endurance? What are optimized systems for endurance training? What are better shoes you could wear? All of these are optimized systems to help you get to the goal. So for every goal, you want to be conscious of your models of reality around that goal and your optimized systems for getting there. This is something you would do on your own now that you've learned the framework for consciousness engineering. And by doing this, you now get to level up in all of these amazing new aspects of your life. Also, because you're looking at 12 distinct categories, another beautiful side effect happens. You are no longer one-sided. There are too many people out there who are great at their careers, but are putting on weight and failing at their health, or who are great moms or dads but have jobs that they absolutely despise, or who might be highly intelligent but might not be having a wonderful love life. By looking at all of these 12 categories, you create balance. You don't become one-sided. You actually have a life that is complete and fulfilled in all the different dimensions of being human. So congratulations. You've now finished this session on consciousness engineering. You've identified rules. You've learned to see the patterns that might be holding you back. You've learned to identify your models of reality, to look at systems of living. You've taken your life and broken it into 12 distinct areas. You've come up with new end goals and steered away from means goals. And now you're going to carry this forward. And for all of these beautiful new visions you want to create, you're going to be examining your models, looking at systems, using consciousness engineering as a framework to get you ahead in every single dimension of your life. Welcome to like a completely new vision of who you can be. This is why I'm so excited about this work. See, there's education that will help you grow step by step by step. It's small, linear, tiny steps, but you can also evolve. What I'm trying to do here is give you a new way of looking at your human experience so you don't make a small linear step. You evolve. By applying this to the way you view the world, you now have a framework where everything you learn in personal growth can be put into an aspect of your life, and you can level up in all of these different things. This is how you go from here to here. Just like a computer, every bit of software, every bit of hardware around how you live can now be transformed. So now you have a whole new framework of looking at your life. The next step, now that you have these visions of where you want to grow, is to start examining models and tools so that you can grow in all of these areas. You can be that creative you. You can be that athletic you. You can have the love life of your dreams. Create those gorgeous homes. Be able to travel all around the world. How do you get there? I believe that this is the ultimate quest for all human beings. My biggest issue with modern education is that it is filled with means goals. It teaches you to get a career, but it doesn't really teach you to build an extraordinary life. These are two very different things. So with this program, what I'm looking to do is launch an online school where the greatest minds in the world can come together and teach classes to everyone else on how you can level up in your life. You see, for all of these categories, there are people out there who are doing extraordinary things. What if they could come and coach you? What if you were not just learning from me? I've given you a framework, but now for all of the different areas in this framework, the world's leading thinkers, not just personal growth teachers or authors, but billionaires, people like Elon Musk or Richard Branson, the world's greatest inventors, scientists, thinkers, revolutionaries are coming together to teach. That is what we've now created. So I'm really excited to give you a glimpse of our new consciousness engineering education program. When you are part of this, what you get are insights and nuggets, not just from me, but from people who are seriously rethinking the way the world works. For example, you might learn from J.J. Virgin, who is the author of numerous books on eating and nutrition. And in our consciousness engineering program, JJ comes on and gives you whole new models on food and exercise. You know, after I spoke to JJ, my body started changing because my beliefs around nutrition and exercise started changing. I used to feel guilty when I was too busy to exercise. JJ showed me and everyone else listening how you could optimize your exercise routines to get the same amount of quality exercise in about 1/5 the regular time. You learn from people like Ken Wilber, America's greatest philosopher, who teaches you new frameworks for understanding the world around you. Ken addresses questions such as, what is the peak of spiritual evolution? Where do I need to go from here? These questions are so profound, we cannot stop talking about them here at the Mindvalley office. And sometimes we bring on people that you may never have heard about, like Rajesh Shetty, who's a Silicon Valley entrepreneur from India who has started one new company every year for 10 straight years. And while doing that, he wrote 14 different books. I've never met a man that productive. Rajesh has tools for it, and he talks about his systems. We've even bring in people like Tom Chi, who was one of the early founders of Google X. Tom Chi created the first Google Glass, and in his class in consciousness engineering, he teaches you how to think about your work and productivity in such remarkable ways that when you go back to your job, you are a whole new person and you can solve problems in a completely different idea. At the same time, we bring on instructors who are teaching you new ways of exercise, of spirituality, of love. And this program is so powerful that right now there are over 50 hours of training in it, in every aspect of your life. So I love building this because every week or so I get to talk to one of the world's most extraordinary people, and I create the class with them. And as I'm doing this, I'm learning so much. And that's why I have such a huge breadth of knowledge. All of this is now available to you too. So I want to invite you to check out Consciousness Engineering. It is by far the most amazing creation I've ever done. This is the biggest thing Mindvalley has done, because as soon as you start these trainings, you will see just how rich, powerful, and transformative this program is. Most people who get in stay with us. They say this is the greatest investment they've ever made in themselves, and they're roping in their friends and family. So do this for yourself. These are the most amazing ideas you could digest, learn, and put into your life. Thank you.